I've spoken in a few videos about the problems of treating chords and soloing as separate and how we should try and integrate them. It's one of the sort of natural features of the keyboard instruments that you get the chord shape, boom, and then you can see right away, all the way up the keyboard, where the notes of that chord are. And of course, if you're playing root position, it's easy to count up. Everything makes theoretical sense. This instrument doesn't really make so much sense. Most guitarists learn by learning a lot of chord shapes. So for instance, if I was to tell you to go through all the chord shapes you know for C major, I don't know how many you know, whatever system you use for organising that, whether you've gone through the Ben Monder handout or whether you learn all your drops or whether you just know a few shapes, the thing is that we tend to learn grips, and I think that's just natural. So one of the most natural things to do then is to use the grips to make melodies. And this is something which I think is often considered as being a little bit modern, but actually it goes right back to people like Charlie Christian and Django, and even, even Lester Young uses a guitar grip to solo on in his famous solo on Lady Be Good. So obviously it's not always necessary to arrange arpeggios so that the notes go up and down in order very nicely like that. In fact, in the real world, we're often miss notes out, and it often sounds better to do so. So if you don't know, the thing about most guitar chords is that most of the jazz grips that you might know, such as this one, that one, I say jazz grips basically to mean seventh chords or larger as opposed to these sorts of things, are in what we call drop 2 position. So that means that instead of being all in a row, so, for instance, up like this, you've got 1, 3, 5, 7, you drop the second note from the top, drop 2, drop it down an octave, and then you get this, this thing, okay, which is a drop 2 shape. And you've got all the different inversions of that. Okay, and you can spend time learning that. Right, so the important thing about this is that actually the notes aren't quite in order. So instead of having, as we normally would when we were practicing our arpeggios for our guitar exams or whatever, all of the notes in a nice row, like 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, like that, we can actually just use the shape, and then we get this kind of a sound. So I'll just go through the C major scale in like parallel seventh chords. Like that, right? I mean, you might use some different positions to make that a bit easier, but that's basically how that works. So this has some rather nice, has a rather nice sound to it. If I just go up then down again. Sorry. Old habits die hard. I can't help but put the third in. So instead of just going up and down the arpeggios as we normally would, like 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, and so on. We would actually just use the chord shapes, the basis of our arpeggio. So for instance, if I play C major, play up the scale, just going, up in parallel. I mean, you might ideally want to use some different string groups, but I'm just demonstrating really. And then we can go up and down those arpeggios like this. Sorry. And hopefully, I'll just do that again. Hopefully you agree that sounds really, really nice and not quite what you'd expect from an arpeggio on a guitar, even though it's just falling straight out of the grips we already know. For instance, if I just go up the, then this one, that's the same thing in a different position, and you can use all kinds of guitar grips for this. I could use this. So for instance, if I was doing a 2-5-1, if I like these grips, and then that one, and then this one, I could go, and I don't have to use obviously all the notes from the arpeggio. I could go like or use those three. So and then maybe see. And you can incorporate sort of added passing tones and things as you normally would for an arpeggio. So, for instance, there I'm playing that shape, right? So, this is, I think, a whole realm of possibilities. If you just take all of the C major shapes, and sort of practice, play arpeggios through those, just breaking the notes up like that. And it's obviously that one. That's kind of boring. What about that one? What about that one? Okay. So, imagine playing, that's a melodic line. You might not think to do that if you were, just playing your regular arpeggio shapes. I'd just like to finish off with a nice little example that actually comes straight from Barry Harris, and he plays this on piano. So this goes to show it's not just a guitar technique. This is the Barry Harris major 6 diminished scale. Actually, minor 6 is what the one he used. So I'm just going to play that. C minor 6 diminished in drop 2s. Okay, and we can just break that up into a line, which sounds like this. Isn't that great? What's the next one? That one. Let's get that one wrong. Okay, so how could you use it when soloing? Well, I mean, you could just like take that, Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of has a bit of a Charlie Christian vibe to it when you play it like that. But I don't think Charlie Christian played exactly those licks. But obviously, he played things like that, for instance, or that. And again, even like bebop lines don't always include all of the lines of the chord in order as you would expect it to be when it's textbook. So I think these kind of really add something. And actually, once you've kind of got a comp for any chord progression you can think of that works, you can actually start to turn that into a line. Okay, for instance, and then for instance, and then so I'm just using chord shapes that I would normally use to comp as a basis of melody. For instance, and then maybe for instance, sorry, I don't know quite what part of the tune I was playing there. Something like Naima, for instance, any difficult chord progression you can think of, where it goes, what's it? This one, and obviously the more shapes you know, the more language you have to say. You play that one, and then got that part. You see what I mean? So you can easily use the chords that you already know on the guitar, and if you spend any time crunching through different positions, you might know quite a few of them, different drops and different inversions, and then just start turning them into lines. It's something which I don't think gets talked about enough, but it's basically a free hit. Hope you find that useful. Thanks for watching.